Hey, welcome back to Motorhead Garage. Well, everybody knows that heat can kill a transmission. If you're doing any heavy towing or any high performance work, you want to put in a transmission cooler.
That's right, a transmission cooler is real critical, a good one. And of course, if you want to do it right, a trans temp gauge, so you can keep an eye on the transmission temperature. But if you do a cooler, do a good one.
Exactly, this is a B&M Supercooler that we're putting in there. You can see this is a ruggedly built one, and it's been pressure tested up to about 200 PSI. So this is good and rugged, and it's not that hard to put in.
Right, and the lines you can use good, solid, rubber lines as long as they're double braided. We chose to use these stainless braided lines and AN fittings, and it's real important when you start putting the fittings into this aluminum cooler.
Yeah, especially when you do that, you want to put some anti-seize compound on there, because if you don't, you're going to gall that together, then you got a real problem. So we've already done that. The next step is the mounting kit that you have to get for it.
Right, B&M makes this kit. This is really a nice kit. You got these little screws that go through the cooler, through the radiator. You've got retainers, and you also have vibration isolation pads. You don't want to tie this cooler down tight in a metal bracket to the frame, because if you get things twisting, that can damage the cooler. Let it float on the radiator. It does these mounting things do a great job.
Exactly, and what that does, it mounts just like this. There's a little ring that goes here, slides on through and on through your radiator. That way, you got this separate from the radiator core, but it's enough movement in there that it doesn't vibrate and it'll last a long time.
Long line goes to the top. We're gonna mount this with the lines horizontally coming out, then they'll go back down and they'll tie into the transmission cooler lines, go into the transmission. There you go, buddy.
All right, let me go ahead and we'll tighten these up. There we go.
Like this.
All right. There we go, shoving her through. Okay, bud, I got it in. Time for you to hook up the lines.
Yeah, well, you're bleeding. Took you a while. All right, we've got the B&M Supercooler mounted on this radiator, got the braided lines. Here's another cooler. I really like these. In fact, I use one of these in my motorhome. This is B&M's high-tech cooler. Real rugged made, plate and fin style. Comes complete with a temp sensor in it. You got two 1/2-inch MPTs and a nice cool fan. You just wire this together. According to the instructions, you need to ground it, bring a 12-volt fuse supply in. When the sensor picks up that the transmission temp is getting high, turns the fan on, this will really cool a lot. If you got a big truck, big motorhome, that'll work. But I'm a fan of gauges. And a while back on this same Camaro, we put a B&M deep dish transmission pan. Here's a great way to go. Here's a gauge, comes complete. Knowing what your trans temp in is real important. You start getting up over 260, 270 degrees, you're starting to fry things. So it's easy to monitor. Now, if you don't have a deep pan with an NPT or 1/8 pipe thread for this sensor, you get a T in the kit, you T it into the cooler line. That way you can have a transmission temp gauge. This will screw right into there. But we're gonna go right into the oil pan we have in this. Little power to the gauge, we're ready to go. You want me to go, you crawl underneath here? I need to go higher.
I thought it was high enough for you.
I'll raise it up. All right, now, I've got our lines coming from the B&M Supercooler down here, hooked up to the steel lines. These steel lines run back to the transmission. Remember, this automatic transmission came from the factory with a cooler in the radiator tank. The two lines went up there, went through that tank and back. We've eliminated that. We go directly to the Supercooler, and that's going to give us plenty of cooling for this transmission. Now, all these are nice and tight. You want to put fluid in it, fire it up. Make sure you've got no leaks. Check the transmission oil level, hot, idling in park or neutral. And of course, I'm not gonna leave these like this. I'm gonna get myself a nice clamp to hold these hoses, keep them apart so they don't vibrate together. You take your time, do a nice, neat job, you keep your transmission cool, and you'll get long life out of it and the torque converter.
We've run out of time. We'll see you again next time here on Motorhead Garage.